in Florida, bugs, scorpions, snakes,
alligators,
hurricanes. Do you really want 3 acres here? Like,
I love land.
Yeah. That's definitely a difference because, like, up in the Carolinas, when I would sell lakefront properties up there and stuff, land was like acreage this, acreage that, and location too, right? Like, you don't want to be next to the power plant.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, up there, acreage was big. For me, down here, Beachside, it's
too much work, too much maintenance.
Well, and Beachside, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
The acreage,
and
you're buying per square foot almost there. And I love it when people come because we had somebody this weekend. He came into town, and he's like, well, I want at least a half an acre on the ocean. We don't really look at acreage. We look at, like, linear feet. On the ocean.
Yeah.
Because half of your lot, I mean, there's some of them out there, there's like 1 acre lot, and half an acre is across on the beach, and it's not like you're going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
And even if, we've had different people that, call us and say, hey, what are the rules on this? Like, this guy keeps coming and fishing in front of my place. I go, well, technically, Tallahassee, you do own to that mean high tide line, but go try to enforce it, and you're just an ass.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like, so I tell
not making friends.
Yeah, I tell oceanfront people all the time, look, enjoy the fact that you live here and you get to look at it all the time. They're here for a week, So let them, or they're across the street living life, and it's the beach, like. Try to put your brain in that mindset, But it's difficult sometimes because, those people are coming up here to live the last 15 years of their life.
Yeah.
Right? So
they don't want no kids playing on their lawn.
Or kids hooking up on the steps where they're,
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. It's you live your whole life and you envision this dream coming true of living on the ocean or living just in Florida in general. And sometimes what you envision comes true and you buy in the right spot and you convey that vision to us, right, when you're working with us. And sometimes people are quiet and they don't say much, and then it's not until you show them 2 or 3 things that you kind of learn, okay, well, wait a second. What they called me about, we can change that up a little bit.
Yeah.
But for me, the acreage, like I totally get it. But, like, for me, I'm like, if it's hot outside, I'm like in as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to mow 3 acres. But
No. I love the privacy, though. Just this, being far away from people. And Gibbs could narrate a movie, I think, or something. He's got that voice, like
lull you to sleep.
That's
what I do.
Like Denzel Washington or something. It's just smooth.
I just talk until people sign the piece of paper. That's what I do.
Like I don't know what Gibbs is selling, but I'm buying it.
I'm buying.
I'm convinced. I don't know what he said, but I'm buying it.
I swear.
Linear feet on the beach. Got it.
I swear there's some times where we'll walk out of a listing appointment and I'll say, I think they just signed because they were sick of me talking.
They were like, we got to go, Gibbs, but we're ready.
I will talk until they sign close.
So what's interesting, Garrett, is there's like, it's funny, like, local folklore, local hubbub, local people talking, and your name shot up, which for me, I'm not local to here. Like I've lived here a long time, but I'm not local. And a lot of people said kind of the same thing that I heard about you, about me years prior, where it seemed like you came out of nowhere, right? And literally got up into the top 10, 15 people on our production reports, which was like super impressive. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. You as well, man. Both of you.
Yeah, but what I really, I even called you one time and said, hey, man, let's go get coffee. And
I remember that.
We're both so busy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, right.
Yeah. We're here today.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I wanted to kind of know more about you because you took it a different level once you kind of hit production. Mm-hmm. You tell me, did you want to surround yourself with people that were like-minded, or why did you decide to go full-on brokerage rather than hang your hat under somebody else?
So, yeah, my whole career, let's see. Well, I enjoyed the sales side, but my true passion, I think, was always management and operations. And I didn't want to open a brokerage until I felt like, hey, I can help other people build their business. So it was something I was always passionate about, but I didn't, it was like I want to earn the right to get to that point. So love the sales side, but true passion is business management, operations, and I enjoy building systems and building things. So that's kind of how I got to that point.
So what you built, did it fold out, roll out, and implement like the way you wanted it to, or were you like, oh God, I had no idea, and reinvent the wheel?
You definitely make adjustments as time goes on, but before I opened, I had like a business model in place, and like when you're in the sales field and doing things, you're seeing things like if I were, and everybody thinks they can do it better. That's always like, oh, if I did it, But seeing how I wanted the business to be built, like if I was on the other side as an agent, and that was the motivation behind it. And it went very close to plan, but definitely make adjustments all the time. And it's always like, you have the overarching picture of what you want, and like that I can say, thank God did come true, but definitely lots of bumps and changes of little trajectories along the way.
How do you keep people motivated like that? Like, because for me, like I have teammates too, and I'm there to support, but for me, I've always been super self-motivated, but part of my motivation is that I got no room for negativity. I'm moving forward, and if somebody's not with me in the trenches, I'm going to leave you behind.
Yeah, and I think you have to start out with the right people, and like you said, self-starter, self-motivated. If you're trying to help someone who just doesn't have that at all, like getting them to that is like you're spending a lot of time and effort on something that's got a low percentage of victory.
Right.
So if you start with the right people, and definitely you brought up the like-minded thing, that was a huge piece of what I wanted to develop in the business, which was, everybody's got different backgrounds and different personalities, but you got these set of core values that like, hey, this is our fundamental thing. And if this is you too, then like we would want you to work there.
Right.
And I think starting with the right people, and then, from there it's, your typical coaching and training and getting together, collaborating on things. But I think the biggest piece of it is starting with the right. Don't put a square peg in a round hole kind of thing.
Which is hard because some of these people are friends and friends of friends, and you want to start out with them. And, I have a hard time kind of talking to people and saying, hey, look, you're wasting my time and you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Either motivate here or you're going to get less and less of my attention. PJ, you do a lot of that training on your side too.
Yeah, a lot.
I know when we met your guy, he was, you got to love that Southern twang he's got, and grabs people right away. Is he gaining traction as well?
Yeah, I mean, we met Dusty. I knew Dusty years ago, but we met him, I don't know, a year ago or so, and then we started coaching with him, and it's just interesting to see. I've had a lot of real estate coaches.
Right.
I've had a lot of people trying to tell me what I should be doing and how I should be doing it, and it's just interesting. I think it takes time to figure out who those people are that are actually motivated. It took us a long time, because we could help everybody.
Oh yeah, everybody lies to us. Yeah.
Yeah, they sit in an hour meeting with you and they tell you everything that they're and then the first, we have an 89-day rule now. Like, if you don't make it in the first 86 days, actually, sorry. Because now you're 86 out.
Right.
Because they show up.
Restaurant term there, right?
Yeah.
86 on the crab bisque.
Yeah. They show up great week 1. Week 2, it starts to fizzle out. Week 3, you really start to see it. And it's like, we tell people all the time, you can't motivate the unmotivated.
Right.
Like, it's not my job to get you motivated. You got to want it. And then we can build the tools on top of that. That'll help you.
And it's crazy how many people are unmotivated out there. I mean, I even see people coming to the end of whatever they've got that's making them money. They know it's coming to the end. Sometimes it's somebody where their alimony's running out, or their child support, and they're like trying to get motivated, and they're not getting motivated. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like you told me, in 6 more months, like rent's gonna be due.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. I think everybody's got a different motivation level, and sometimes those people are going to come to you, do a good job, and it means something to them, right? And some people are just bumping along,
There's so many people that are just bumping along.
You can't survive in this. Any
I want to bump along.
business like this one, especially like if you don't have the motivation to get better at it, like you'll fizzle.
I think it's part of like $1 Million Listing and HGTV, like
right.
They make it
I'm
look
so bougie.
easy.
I'm luxury. I'm
right.
Yeah. Just because you have a Kate Spade's purse and a Tory Burch shoes does not make you luxury. Right.
Mm.
We talked about that the other day. Kind of luxury to me is knowledge. Right.
Mm.
And
I like that.
Yeah, because I mean, look, sometimes they pull up in their Rolls Royce the first time, and then they pull up in their Tesla Cybertruck the second time, and they're looking at a super expensive house. But those guys are busy working, making money to afford the purchase. And to me, I want to be able to tell them, the property across the street is state-owned, preserve, Archie Carr, pluses and minuses of that, great privacy, but we're going to have more bugs, right? You can't have 1,000 acres of preserve land and not expect the fact that when the wind blows across it, you're going to have some bugs.
Or some wildlife, or we'll pick whatever.
But, we all kind of have that knowledge. And sometimes I try to pass that knowledge on to people, and it's so many different things at so many different times when you're talking to people, that for me, I'm unsuccessful training the people unless they just straight up shadow me, right? If they're there and I introduce them, hey, I'm working with Will Elberth right now. Hey, this is Will Elberth. He's with me. And the person sits there and they're just a sponge, right? Mm-hmm. They don't say anything. They don't interact. People will always say to whoever I've got shadowing me, so this person doesn't talk. And I go, well, no, I just take up all the air in the room.
No, he doesn't have time to talk.
Yeah,
but I'm just
like, I'd love to talk, but Gibbs hasn't stopped.
Management and sales are definitely. I think in real estate too, you have an agent, like they're good at sales, like has nothing to do with management, and I think that's the, with BJ, you've had a team for a long time, but it's a totally different animal. Managing people, helping lead people, than it is to be like a great sales agent.
Right.
And it's like you do ask, if you want to build a team or you want to build a brokerage, you have to understand and learn management and be, have some level of passion about it, because it's totally different than being a really good sales agent and just having someone watch. And it's mentorship and all that. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
And it's
a whole other set of books you got to start picking up.
It's a whole nother shelf on your bookcase of management. You're like, man, I just had to learn all that sales stuff, and I got to figure out how to manage and lead people.
And part of me wants to do that just because, there's so many times that you sit down in front of people, and not that you're bored of it because they're all different, but at the same time too, like, how many times am I going to do this? But I've never felt a good transitional spot for me to step away from what actually makes money to train, support, and wait long enough for that little piece to come back to me to make a living. Because at the end of the day, if I'm not making a living, I'd rather be sitting on the beach.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I had that transitionary period for the first, it was because I was 2019 was when I think we spoke, and I was doing a lot of sales at that time, and then opening the brokerage, and then kind of, it was 2 or 3 years of a full transition to where, now I'm not doing any sales, 1 or 2 a year.
Right.
But definitely not an easy.
And now you're giving those out too, right? So a decent lead comes in, and now you're like, hey, this person struggled, or this person had a cancellation. I know they're hurting.
Yeah.
Let me get that to them.
But you got to get, you have to have money coming in at the time. So it's like a dead stop is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really hard.
Especially because you just got used to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You just got used to, no, I can buy anything I want.
Yeah. And then, you're building a team and you're paying money for things, and you got to fund that and fund systems and programs and training, and,
regardless of whether the agents show up or not
whether
for
they
themselves.
do anything. And so it's a tough transition.
Yeah. It's motivating people is kind of like herding cats, right?
It is. And I think, like we both have said, I think the biggest thing is, and it's not easy to find, or to know if the person has that. Right. That's the hard part. But finding the right person, and then you're much more willing to put in the effort. If you're like, I don't know if this so and so is going to work out, and it's like, all right, that's a lot of time and money on something that's maybe not just going to lose money and lose time and effort.
What do you look for? What are those key moments that help you identify those?
For us, the business model was 2 years in the business, done a minimum of 15 transactions. And that was kind of that period, I think, of time of which someone has made the decision, this is now my career. And I think that was the biggest thing for us. Outside of that, we then have our 4 core values, which is someone's got to fit that. But I've made this my career because, the success rate in real estate's, whatever the statistic is, 87% first 5 years. But choosing someone who's already passed that hump, or, at least real close to past the hump, or this is now my career.
And you said 87%. It's not 87% pass, 87%
fail. Yeah, fail. Yes.
So that is difficult. So, 80% of your efforts towards agents may go completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
Time and time again.
Time and time again.
I don't have enough fingers or toes to count. I spent how many hours with that person, and they're just gone.
And they're gone.
Out of real estate completely.
And God forbid they get good, right? And really take what you learn and run with it. And then different people are different, right? Some people will stay, right? Because they appreciate and realize what they gained.
Yep.
Right.
That's the other thing too, and specifically agents is, a new agent, he comes on and they don't have any context as to how difficult it is to generate business and to do this. So it's part of our business model. And there's pros and cons to all of it, starting with new agents and having a really good new agent training program. That's a business model. For us, it was no new agents, but that they don't have the context yet as to someone giving them help or what someone's doing for them. So just starting with someone who has context.
Your lead versus some boomtown lead is a big difference on that.
Yeah. They got no context as to what that entails.
They know they can make their own schedule. They just don't realize it's 24/7, 365 is their new schedule.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So many agents I got into it for the freedom. I'm wrong business. Right. Go somewhere else.
Right. It's crazy. People, I've had throughout the years, tons of people reach out to me. I had one just recently reach out to me, and she's like, well, I'm a nurse, and I really want more time with my family, and I feel like this is a good transition. I know a ton of people in town. And, I was real with her. I said, hey, look, you're getting a degree as a nurse, and I get it. There are certain hours that you work. But if you go into real estate, you will be able to pick up your daughter from school, but you will be on the phone. You will be able to then drop your daughter off at chorus on time, but you'll be texting. You will be rushing between chorus and to the time you have to pick them up to get in front of a computer or an iPad to send out an electronic signature, to get something done, to communicate with title. So there's a lot going on, and I don't think, and nobody, if anybody really knew what we did start to finish, they would actually think we're underpaid because, we don't get paid till we get it to the closing table. And I always tell people, look, 1 in 10. 1 in 10 where you really start thinking that you've got something going, that one will get to the closing table. So that I think there's that disconnect of what they think they see on whatever it is, HGTV or whatever. I don't watch those shows. I've watched them like once or twice just and laughed kind of.
I like to watch them just.
Do you watch them?
No, I don't watch them. But every once in a while when I have a deal blow up, I'll watch it just so that I can watch them have a deal blow up. And then I'm like, yes,
right.
I'm not alone in this world of real estate. You know?
It's
they put the dollar amount that they lost. I'm like, yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But my daughter said that to me at a park yesterday. Like, she's like, my wife was there and she was like, Dad's always on his phone at the park.
Yeah.
And I was like, man,
it sucks.
She's 4 and she already knows Dad's on his, go play on the playground so I can get these 2 or 3 things done.
I pulled into my driveway yesterday and hit park. My phone had dinged like 3 or 4 times from the time I picked up my daughter till pulled into my driveway. Pull into the garage, hit park, get out my phone, and then by the time I look up from my phone, my daughter's out of the car all the way up to her room with her book bag, and I'm like, damn, I missed that 3 minutes. And so, after I did it, I set down the phone, walked all the way up, 3rd floor, into her bedroom. Hey, let's do something. Do you want an apple? I can cut up strawberries. Like, to be Dad, right? Because Dad works a lot, and we get to where it's no big deal. Driving down the road and, hey, Siri, tell such and such to do this, da-da-da-da-da. Boom. Hey, Siri, da-da-da-da. And I use Siri all the time.
Yep.
I used to, and now I look back, and even when I type something out because somebody else is in the car and it's just, I'm like, damn, that takes too long.
Dictate everything.
Don't go that fast.
Hey, Siri, do this.
Yeah.
Hey, Siri, do that.
She's really good at listening to like a very low tone too. Like,
Mix it all up.
hey, send that text for me.
But all that technology is great for us. It certainly has helped me a lot. I have an iPad in the car that I rarely ever use, but it's got full internet capability, and I can be anywhere and get something quick on there. And I leave one computer at my house with a triple monitor set up. I've got one at the office, triple monitor set up. I don't have a girlfriend anymore, but when I had a girlfriend, I had a computer set up at her place. So no matter what, if I had to be on a computer, I had immediate access, quick, knock out electronic signature requests, send something to title, whatever the case may be, to keep going because, our life has gotten even more mobile.
Now we got all this AI stuff going on and speeding things up even more. But
that's definitely going to be interesting too.
Yeah.
I just started on this. I just did a contract 419 Ocean over with Laura Dowling Roy, and my client and her client. It's a probate deal. There was mold. It was just all kinds of stuff with it. We're going to strip it, redo it, and everything, but there was some language that we put in at the end of the contract under additional terms, and I used ChatGPT for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because why do I want to reinvent the wheel? Why do I want to pull 15 minutes of information here when I can put it in there with my 5-minute here? It gives me something, and then it takes me just 2 minutes to refine anything there. But I put under that language, because it was a 2-paragraph language, I put buyer and seller understand and agree that a large language model was utilized to create the additional terms language.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. And then I had the attorney on the other side call me and say, hey, why did you do that? I said, because I don't want anybody ever to come to me and say I'm practicing law.
Yeah.
You know, and he said, well, I could probably argue that. And I said, argue it all you want. Buyer and seller signed off on it.
Right.
You know? So AI is definitely, AI is changing our world. I mean,
business is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
We see it, but we don't realize it.
It's coming fast. That's the thing.
Think about this. I am always, because my buyers and sellers are skew a little older because I concentrate on the ocean and I just, that's what it is. It's the final years of their life. And, but people are always asking me about elevator. Oh, where can we put an elevator? And now think about this. Tesla robot, it carries you up and down the steps. You don't need a $25,000 crappy elevator that needs work all the time.
Right.
Get a $20,000 Tesla robot and have it carry you up and down the steps and shop and cook.
Right. I was going to say, then do all the other things.
You know, so really robotics and AI is so huge. We don't think about it touching every industry, but healthcare. Okay. Tesla robot, you're in your house another 10 years now. Okay, right? I'm not going to assisted living. Well, that changes that whole industry, you know. And here for the last 10 years, every motel, hotel, or anything that ever popped up seemed like it was being turned into assisted living. Well, what if you don't need that as often, you know? And then what happens to this value of real estate? Really, if everybody that's 50, 60, 70 years old says, hey, wait, now I'm 10 more years in this property, well, then that's less rotation on property. More people staying in properties longer, and we
got my robot taking care of me.
Yeah.
No, everything. The data and what AI is doing with data in the healthcare industry, that's going to be huge. I mean,
I have a friend that's a radiologist, and I mean, their AI is catching 25% of things docs didn't catch.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of good to it. There's the other side of it, but it's going to enhance things in a lot of ways for the better.
Yeah,
for sure. I think there's going to be a lot of people that figure out a way to make money with it as well, and you're going to have your AI revolution, just like the internet, just like you know, every step of the way. I mean, look, I when I was in high school and college, I worked a couple places, but one of the places that I worked was Radio Shack. And, you know, it's
Radio Shack.
Kind of funny to think, but I remember when the Tandy 1000, which was the first real, like, personal computer came out, and I would sell those in the store because it had the highest ticket dollar amount, and then I could make some decent money on selling a computer.
Tandy 1000.
And
that was before my time.
I know, but I tell you, it's each thing that I see coming, and by far, AI with the combination of robotics is so far beyond that next step of anything that I saw in my lifetime. But
wild times.
It is.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And I think we're all harnessing the ChatGPT side of it, right? And the large language models, they're already come out with a ChatGPT law, so you can pay for that, and it's geared towards law. And even when I was doing that verbiage for that addendum, or the additional terms, I even said to ChatGPT in the prompt, "Hey, make sure this is kosher with Florida law." You know, it's going as an addendum on a real estate contract, and it's, you know, part of its response back was, as far as I can tell, all things match with Florida law, but of course you should consult an attorney, right?
Yeah.
But, and I think we're all utilizing that portion of it. It's the next step that we don't know how that's going to go out. I mean, even podcasts now, here you are recording yourself, and after you do 5, 10, 15 podcasts, you probably have enough to then flip it to the full AI version. You know, and as that AI develops, you won't be sitting in, You'll just be taking prompts, adding the prompts to the video, and you say, hey, I want to do that at CLI, right? Or, hey, I want to do that at...
We'll still use you guys.
Yeah. put me in front of, Cocoa Beach Pier for this segment on Cocoa Beach Pier, right?
Yeah.
Or, put me at the Sebastian Inlet to talk about snook, or whatever it is.
Yep.
I mean, we're using it all the time with CLI. I mean, we were at a property the other day, like, okay, these are ideas of a property tour, so it's not just a walkthrough. And it's like 2 or 3 iterations within 2 minutes.
Yep.
And now we have the script, and we're like, it's taking an hour worth of work and saying you can do it in 2 minutes. Right. Why not?
And I hate getting on video at the house. I mean, hate it. I hate it so much that I'm like, I don't prep. I put something in my brain last minute. I go with that, and if it's good enough, it's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Will I do a second take? Yeah, if I say something completely stupid. But for the most part, I'm like, no, we're doing it. Clip it, edit it, whatever. Let's get it done.
But we had like a rooftop one in Satellite Beach. I told Alex it would be really cool if you could like AI impose a rocket launch in this video. He's like, yeah, no problem.
That's
2 days later, I'm pointing to the sky. That's an empty sky, and there's a rocket. People are like, how long did you stay on that roof for that video? I was like, 2.5 minutes.
I'll tell you something funny. So I have to look back, maybe 12 years ago, I sold an oceanfront house. I remember it was $3.87 million, and it was down 90. I forget. It was in the 9,000 block. I can't remember what the address was though. But anyways, had this cool rooftop. It's totally dark. There's no white noise. I'm like, I want to do a night sky here and then sunrise. And the photographer at the time was like, well, yeah, I do have this thing. And he had this like long boom. He had a boom that went up and then a long, and the camera like slowly throughout the whole night moved down the boom and shot. I remember it was like 3,500 photos to get the night sky movement. Mm-hmm. And we paid for that. And I want to say it was like another $700 on the video. And it was an 8-second clip that we then moved down to like 5 seconds. And that was basically like the video cost me twice as much on that video alone. But it was so cool at the time. And now you can just AI, boom.
2 seconds.
2 seconds.
You know?
So many use cases for it. I was doing, an agent in my office was like, hey, I want to file this ethics complaint on somebody. I'm like, okay, so I took out my AI note recorder. This would have taken me like 3 hours otherwise. Took out my AI note recorder. I'm like, all right, tell me the story. Save transcript. I took the ethics PDF from the board. I dropped that in ChatGPT. I dropped the transcript, and I said, hey, can you find what violations are in this story? 30 seconds later, cites every one on there. Like, to just save like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Two grueling hours, too.
Yeah, two annoying hours.
Of you basically saying, this is going to go nowhere anyway.
And it's like, all right, here you go. It took me 5 minutes.
It's beautiful. It's like the professional of what you're looking for to analyze and regurgitate, and it's
repetitive
so cool.
tasks, data, like just saving so much time. So it's exciting. We get to be a part of it.
I've said this, like, in my entire life, I dreamed of an AI bot that could write an email for me because I am a math and science guy, and English, they made me take like all the second English, like in high school, all the freshmen got to take Spanish. I had to take English like 2 classes.
Right.
And they were like, no, you need to work on your first language before we teach you a second language. So when I say that I've dreamed of this, now I'm like, the minute it came out, I was like, yes.
Yeah. This is incredible.
This is what I'd like to say, but you need to make it sound like this. Okay, no problem. Boom, done.
I ended up being a journalism major in school.
Yeah, see, we're polar opposite.
And the crazy thing about that was my whole life growing up, I had a learning disability, or I don't know what you want to call it, dyslexia or whatever you want to call it. I couldn't read. I got all the way to the 8th grade not being able to read, just listening in class and answering questions. And I was like solid C student. And my parents were like, you're smarter than that. I don't know why you're not getting the grades. I had a hard time reading Cliff Notes, right? Like that's how bad my reading was. And my parents shipped me to a boarding school. They said, look, you got something going on, and
You got to figure it out.
this
Gibbs.
place will figure it out. So they shipped me off to boarding school, and I remember getting there, and they tested me in their reading center, and I tested on a 4th grade reading level in the 10th grade.
Wow.
You know, then they wanted to set me back. And then I remember my mom was like, no, he's smart. Somebody's just got to teach him. So then I had to take an extra hour of reading, and then I had after sports, because when you go to boarding school, from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed is pre-planned. Like that's like the benefit of boarding school. There's other benefits, which I would have thought as a kid, you know, I was like, well, shit, they're shipping me off to military school, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
But the reality of it was everything was pre-planned, scheduled. You met that schedule, and at the end of every night, you were so exhausted anyways, you know? So it was like morning, you had to sign in at breakfast, right? Then first 2 classes, church for 15 minutes, you know, break for 15 minutes, 2 more classes, lunch, 2 more classes, sports.
Taught you some discipline.
Right up to study hall at 7 o'clock, you know? So, but, I mean, they really did teach me. So for me then to make that transition to be a full journalism major, but I would sit down, which now I sit down and do it real quick and throw it into chat. I would sit down sometimes to write an email. And, I mean, we're emailing people that are about to make a $3 million purchase decision. You know, it's not really great to have slang and
got to sound professional.
Yes. So I will still take the 5 or 10 minutes to do what I think sounds good in this brain, right? But like everybody's headspace is different. Everybody, the way they would read or whatever. And it's just great to then throw it into that and be like, well, it's a little bit more easy to understand if this sentence is here and this sentence is there. And I'm like, great, copy, paste, you know?
Yep.
So it's kind of unbelievable that step that we're at now, and then where it's going, of course, now, because the large language model is one step, right? The next step is Canva and all that to get the imagery and all that. So
wild times.
It is.
PJ, changing subject here. How's your new building?
New building is awesome.
You're all done with it.
We got to tackle the outside now.
Yeah,
but
that's awesome.
We bought
It's my neighbor now. 2 doors over.
Yeah.
In
we bought in O'Galley.
Uptown? Yeah, O'Galley area.
Yeah. We bought a house that
Awesome
had
spot.
100+ cats in it.
Oh my.
And they used the entire house as their litter box. And we thought like maybe it was confined to the downstairs. And then we started demo, and it was.
That's like one of
Smelled
those.
good.
That's like one of those. Every now and then we'll walk out of a listing appointment, and Greg will say, "What do you think about that?" And I say, "Man, I think that thing needs a 5-gallon can of gas."
Yeah.
You know?
Light the match.
The guys at Intercoastal could smell the urine coming out of the house a block away. It was bad.
Wow.
That's such a cool area, though.
Yeah.
And you know, I just looked at a lot over there for a client. As a matter of fact, this 4 or 5 blocks from there, further up Pineapple kind of area, but it is a cool area, and the cantina is super badass.
I like Nomads.
Yeah,
Super
I had no idea what EGAD had to offer until we were finally there.
It's a fun little area.
It was funny because I worked in a model in Suntree, then we moved our office to another Suntree, and I stayed in Suntree like for 10 years, feels like. But I would always see your Jeep the corner, Pineda, and I'm like, damn, Garrett's putting in the hours. Like
Always there.
And then now we move and we're
Now
2
you're
doors
still
down,
seeing
and
my
I'm
Jeep.
like,
This is
like I leave sometimes 5:30. I'm like, man, I feel bad. Garrett's still there.
Garrett's still working.
still grinding.
What do you guys think? Like when people come to the area and they're looking, and you're going to spend some time with them, do you just kind of bounce them to a few listings, figure out what they want, or do you kind of sell the sizzle of the steak and drive them? This is uptown, this is midtown, this is downtown.
I think it really just depends on the entire, family. For us, it's like, okay, what's everybody in the family, and how does this work for, commute as well as just lifestyle,
right?
School, that plays a big part these days. I feel like if it's a family, of course.
And if not, you're kind of saying, hey, look, schools, just so you know, if we went 2 blocks over, you'd be in a better school district. I know you don't have kids, but when you sell it, that might be something.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Well, I was just with a doctor coming in, and his wife is, of course, in charge of and I'm like, you guys told me you want to be down here, and then we're looking at a house north of the barge canal. I'm like, he's got to work in bureau sometimes. Like, you're adding 40 minutes. Like, I know as the wife, you're not thinking about this, but I can see the look on the husband's face. Like, why the hell are we up here?
Yeah, exactly.
Figuring out what people's real motive, because someone coming into the area that has no context, those are tough. Like figuring out what because they don't have any idea. Then you got to help them figure out what they want. And that's like getting down to their real motivation and then learning an area at the same time. That's always a tough one.
Right. Yeah, I have some people that they're like, we want to be at the beach, we want to be at the beach, we want to be at the beach. And then I show them something a block from the beach, and then they go, well, what about this? And it's in Vieira. Look, it seems like we get so much more house. Well, yeah, you get more house, but you're not walking across the street from the beach. Like when people say to me they want to be at the beach, my brain says, okay, I'm willing to commute a little more Monday through Friday so that Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday I can walk across the street to the beach or, whatever. That to me is wanting to be near the beach. But in some people's brain, it's like, oh, I can live in Vieira and I can be to the beach in 20, 25 minutes and walking on the beach. Oh, okay. Well, then
run into that a lot.
Yeah.
I want to be at the beach. Well, 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
20 minutes is good.
Yeah. I guess it's context. Like you coming from Iowa or something, you're like, 15 minutes is living on the beach.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Northern California. Like Santa Cruz was a 45-minute drive, and it was not a fun drive either. So like 20 minutes, that works. Like cut my time in half.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you don't actually want to live on the beach then.
Right.
But we run into that all like.
But I totally get the motivation. The construction's newer.
Yeah.
There's a World of Beers, which I think they just closed.
Closed,
yeah. And there's, Costco's out there. And I get it. And it is beautiful, right? I mean, we have all these lakes and ponds because we need retention ponds, but it doesn't matter. The ducks still fly in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get that. But to me, everybody has their favorite, right? Like, to me, and I'm jaded. I grew up in a little teeny tiny oceanfront shack, right? Like literally on the second floor, when you knew someone was on the first floor, you could stomp on the floor and sand would fall through to the other side. And, it was like built in the mid 30s, you know? So for me, like when I moved here from the Outer Banks and I first came across that O'Galley Bridge, I was in my 1986 Toyota long bed, 4-wheel drive truck, no AC, no power steering. I'm crying, and my tires were, you're caught in a little shake like this. And I came across that O'Galley Boulevard, and there was Dragon Point on the left, and it was just gorgeous. There were sailboats moored on, and then I pulled across there, and it was like February, I remember, and it was one of those February days where it was close to 80 degrees. I pulled off on the side of the road because there was a guy that said oranges, $2. It was a bag of oranges for $2, and I got a bag of oranges, and I cut it right there with a pocket knife and ate the first orange, and I thought to myself, why did I not spend the first 20 years here, right? So I got here when I was 20. But for me, when I saw that, because Nags Head's cold in the wintertime. I mean, people don't realize how cold it is, but you get a 15, 20 mile an hour northeast wind, and it's just bringing in cold air, and it cuts through everything you've got on, I mean, I remember when they came out with Gore-Tex. That's how old I am, right? I remember when that came out and Patagonia came out with it, and we were at Whalebone Junction. Jim Vaughn is the guy that owns and started Whalebone Junction up there. And he's like, well, you got to try this Gore-Tex. You can go out on the beach and, and
Floridians now do that when it drops below 50. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I need my Gore-Tex. It's 51 today.
Yeah, dying.
But I do remember that. So for me, I remember I was like, for me, the beach is the beach, right? And then for a while, I dated a girl in Boca and went back and forth every other week. So I had my kids here for a week, then I went to Boca for a week. I ended up even buying a house there, right? And then bouncing between the two. And what I saw in Boca was, like, Boca has the same kind of thing as Vieira, right? Mm. Out Jog Road, out Military jogs out that way too, and Glades goes out that way, and there are all these beautiful subdivisions. All of them have a lake. All of them have a water feature. They're gated. It's gorgeous. Good access to them. But as that area grew, like, the traffic has gotten insane.
Yeah.
Now it's 8 lanes
It's crazy.
Across to access those neighborhoods. And, if you're getting to somewhere at an off time, no problem. But rush hour?
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
my
thank
God.
you.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So then those people then tried to move back over to the beach in Boca. And what they realized was, once you cross the bridge, you're not
coming back.
You're not coming back. You can't afford it because it outpaces for long term. And people are always asking me return on investment. And I'm that guy anyways. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm going to run what I think your return on investment is anyways, just because I'm interested.
Yeah.
But you give up a few things to be beachside. You give up the height of the ceiling. Maybe it's going to be a full remodel. Maybe, you're giving up a few things to be there.
Well, and a lot of people think Melbourne Beach, like, only goes down a mile.
Right.
I've taken some people down there. They're like, where are we?
Right.
Is Sebastian?
Keeps
I'm like,
going.
we're still a little distance away from Sebastian. Like,
I still do that every time I'm out there.
Yeah.
It's still going.
It is crazy. Like somebody, because I live in the 3000 block in Melbourne Beach. And I was fortunate enough, in real estate, we're right place, right time sometimes. And on where I live, it was one of those things where I was, an agent came to me. We offered on it. Pre-COVID, we offered on it. And I had a client offer really, really low, 2/3 of the ask. Mm. And then COVID kind of took hold, and that agent called me back and said, hey, yeah, that seller will take that offer. I, of course, called the buyer, and he said, I'm not doing anything right now.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. And so I did see a path for the agent and the seller to make more money on it. And I wasn't sure of that path because of the way it was zoned and built. So I called a real estate attorney. I spent a couple of my own dollars just to have a conversation. And the real estate attorney was like, yeah, you're right. You can do this. It'll change this. And you'll be able to, because it was a duplex, you'll be able to sell those separately. But the local municipality had it locked. You couldn't sell it separate. And but the real estate attorney knew how to handle it. So I called back the agent, said, hey, tell your seller this is what they need to do, and they'll get what they need for that property. And he called me back a couple of days later and said, she's not interested in jumping through the hoops. Do you know anybody else that'll give her that for it? And lo and behold, I had sold 2 of my rentals, not prepping for anything, not, for no reason other than the market was up. Be smart, take something off the table, lower your mortgages, get rid of some of the mortgages, pay some other stuff off, just very diversified, very balanced. Like, let's play this as the long game. And that one popped up in front of me, and I said to him, look, I think I can make that thing come together, but I need some owner financing, but I only need it for 60 days. And so he went to that person, and she was like, yeah, no problem, 60 days owner financing. And I said, okay, now tell her I'm going to do exactly what I told her she should do to get the full amount.
Yeah.
And he came back, and yep, she's cool with it. She understands. She doesn't want to mess with it. It's yours.
All yours.
So on the day of inspection, I didn't go in with an inspector. I went in with a photographer. We shot both sides of it. I set up 2 websites. I virtually staged both of them, and I pulled out my phone, and I said, you know what? I'm going to find the buyer for the other half of that thing. And I did. I found it right away.
Oh, wow.
Like within a week. My number one person that I wanted to possibly buy it, I texted them and called them, and they said, you know, we're traveling for the next week, but we'll be there in like 8 days, 9 days. Are you willing to hold it? You know, and I'm like, well, yeah, I hadn't even bought it yet.
yeah. I don't know that thing yet.
I'll
hold it for you.
I got in there and I showed it to them. They were like, we're a go, but we need to mortgage it.
Yeah,
I said, okay, that's fine. You know, so my owner financing, which was 60 days, really I had set that up so that the day I closed, they could pull the trigger on their contract and be done like that. But my point to all that is, you know, I live in a nice oceanfront place, but I was right place, right time.
Yeah.
And
that's real estate, right?
That's real estate.
Right place, right time.
Yep. So, and it's nice that, I mean, it took me literally 18 years to run across that deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And to have, you know, because I had $400,000 cash from selling the other ones. So, you know, it wasn't like I was limping in too hard on it. And at the time, too, I had set up, I know a couple guys with some money, right? Like, again, nature of the business. I called 2 different guys, and I said, look, if I can't pull this off in 30 days, I'm going to need to borrow some money. I just want you to tell me you got me, you're liquid, you can make that happen, and I'm going to pay you handsomely for that money. Because I was going to give them 15% to do it. But for me, I saw the end game, right? And so, you know, things sometimes get complex and complicated in transactions. But if you've got the money and the time and you're willing to stick it out, you really can get yourself a good deal. You know, everybody I've run across since then and even before then is like, all right, that's the deal I want. I go, well, I get it. I get it.
18 years.
Yeah.
18 years.
Do you have 18 years for this? Because it may be another 18 years before I run across this deal.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm always running those numbers for people and always thinking in my head. And you know, people are always coming to me and go, oh, well, you know, I spoke with my financial consultant and, you know, they don't think I should have a rental house. They think I should have more stocks. And I go, well, yeah, okay, I get it.
That's their job.
I get it. That's because that's their
they
job.
sell.
You know, they'll sell you a real estate investment trust if they think you need to be diversified in real estate.
Yep.
But you know, and I always tell people, well, take that with a grain of salt, right? Like, I'm here to help you if I can help you, and this is what I think on this. But I've always run myself super, super diversified as well, and it's paid off for me in the long run because when real estate's slow, which it's been a little slow, you know, I've got other stuff to lean on, and
I'm the opposite.
Are you?
My guy's like, why you sell, you invest, and you are heavily weighted. And he's like, every meeting, I'm like, you're wasting your breath. I don't want to buy more stocks.
You control it. That's what I like about real estate.
Yeah.
You control it.
I'm in the same way. It's just like, this is the business that I know. I mean, I understand the importance of diversifying, but I'm like, I know it, so I'm just more comfortable with it.
I'm like, it's like me telling you to buy a piece of real estate. You're going to buy more stock or more of what you service.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
I owner financed the house that we live in, or the dirt, you know, to get to the house.
Yeah.
I bought 6 acres, sold off what I didn't want.
Yeah.
Yep.
People are like, why are you doing that? I'm like, just wait.
Yeah.
You'll see. Big picture.
Yeah.
There's a light at the end of that tunnel.
My wife asked me that a lot.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
2
honey?
years. 2 years we waited for FPL to move one pole that was right in the middle of the lot. It was torture.
Yeah.
But worth it now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Buy real estate and wait. Don't wait.
Yeah.
And then try and
There's
find the deal.
like even the ones that I sold to, that I ultimately positioned myself into a great property. I still wish I owned them.
I
I
tell people that all
drive
the
by
time.
them every
Anything I've
single
ever
day.
sold, I'm like, I should have just kept that.
Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Like, don't think I've ever not said that. Like, thank God I sold that.
The only
one.
time I've asked somebody that question, and it's because like the house flooded or it burnt down.
Yeah.
But other than that, nobody has ever said like, "Oh, I'm so happy I sold that property." They're
Yeah.
always like, "Oh, remember that house that was across from Dragon
Should have
Point?
kept it.
Yeah, I bought that for $500." I was like, yeah.
Good luck with that. You can't buy the driveway for that now.
Yeah. You get a mailbox.
I do. I look. I just recently sold one. I was gonna do something different with the money, and I ended up changing my mind. But it was a short-term rental, and I had bought another short-term rental that I was had needed full remodel. So I ended up, this one I had bought for $400,000, right? So I sold it for $848, but sold it for $850. So I was like, okay, this all makes sense. And in that neighborhood, because I was working in that neighborhood every single day, and I was even on the board of the HOA because I owned a few of them in there, and I was
Didn't want them to do
protecting my
anything.
assets.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So, and then there was another unit in there that the roof leaked, and they were suing the developer, and they stripped it all back to the studs, and blah, 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 and she just wanted out. And I was willing to give her $400 because I had paid $400 for the other one, right? I get on the phone with her and talk to her for a couple minutes, and she goes, and I just know nobody's going to give me $400, but I really want $400. I know I'm just going to get offered $375. And so I was like, well, that's funny because that's exactly what I was going to offer you.
Here's your $400.
Right. And so I ended up getting that one for $375. But,
Nice.
That's the thing. Like, sometimes it's good to just keep your mouth shut and let the other person talk, right?
Yep.
Sometimes they'll just, she had no idea she left $25,000 on the table, but I certainly wasn't going to offer it up after she just said she knew there was no way she was going to get over $375 for it. But again, so in that scenario, my thought process of selling one because I had already bought another one low, that was logical to me because I'm setting a comp too, right? Okay, here's a comp, similar situation, similar time, similar everything, and now I got this one super cheap. And I've been working on that remodel for way too long. And I used to, back in the day, I would, as I was growing business, I found like November I was pretty slow. So, and it was repeating year after year. So in November, I was like, all right, I'm going to go buy a rental.
Good deal. Yeah.
I'm going to flip it, furnish it, rent it. And I was doing that like November, December. And I was running 2-3 months fix flip to rentals. And this other one, of course, was during peak COVID and all that. But I've been working on that thing for 2 years.
Yep.
2 years. And I've got it now. I mean, it's
ready to go.
It's ready to go. But, I mean, I even put in a pool and a hot tub and all kinds of stuff. And
I might buy it.
Yeah. Actually, it's nice to own one Airbnb in your portfolio because when people come to visit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're like, hey, I got a place for you.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's got a pool.
Now I know who to call.
Yeah.
Gibbs, give me that discount.
I one of the things we were putting in the pool, and I told the guy, I was like, hey, there's a stormwater drain right here. And I pegged it out, slipped my phone down in the grate when I could have dropped it to shoot to show him the angle. Look, it goes this direction. We got to be really careful. I don't want to mess with it because I don't want to have to fix a stormwater drain. Of course, he hit it, yanked it open.
Immediately.
Completely broke it. And I'm like, but, I mean, that's your responsibility. I mean, he's not going to. I pointed it out, and he's like, of course I can't take responsibility if we hit it, but I don't even think they tried.
They tried to take it.
Yeah, they tried to hit it. But that was going to cost me, he quoted me $10,000 to fix that stormwater drain. And, I was like, I'll get down in that stormwater drain myself and
I'll
do
fix
it.
that.
Yeah, exactly. And that first quote came across with all the pieces and parts on the order form. Whoop. I called up, I ordered them, had them shipped there. I said, I'm going to find somebody to do that cheaper than $10,000. And that put me on like a 2-month delay. It really did, because I couldn't find anybody that laid pipe, right? I need a man that can lay some pipe, right? And it ended up, I found it like a friend of a friend who we were just shooting crap about it. And I was like, man, I got to find somebody. And he's like, wait a second.
I could do that.
I got a neighbor that can do that. So he called up one of his neighbors, and he's like, yeah, that's what I do, So he came over, took a quick look at it. He's like, yeah, I'll do it for $1,500. So I had him over. He did it, and then his kids came with him. It was a Saturday, right? So his kids came with him, and his kids and his wife, and he's about to hop down in a wet, nasty hole and lay pipe. And so I said to his wife, I said, hey, look, I've got an Airbnb right up here. It's empty today. You guys can go into the game room and have a blast.
Yeah.
I got everything there. Pool table, foosball table, dart board,
nice having that.
Everything. So I take them up there and drop them off in there, come back down, and we all kind of help and get this thing done. And so for a tip, I gave him a weekend. I said, when are your kids' birthdays? He said, they're both in December. I said, like second week in December, and I pulled up my Airbnb calendar, and I was like, that one that I just sent them to is open December 13th weekend. You can have it for that weekend.
Nice.
And I said, why don't you do a big birthday party for them? Kids can just have a blast. You don't owe me anything. You don't have to clean it. You don't have to do anything. I'll handle all that. He was like, that was awesome. So, and it's so cool
like,
to have an Airbnb in part of your portfolio, because, you don't think about it, but, that thing rents for $750 a night. So, like, for me to give them 3 or 4 nights, they would have never been able to afford that as a family.
Yeah.
And yet it was going to sit empty.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like almost like opportunity to make it different in a kid's life. Mm-hmm. And it was just so simple to do.
Yeah.
But so I do like having one.
Yeah.
And I may just keep one for that, but because of course Airbnb is 3 times the rental income, which is great. But it's also Saturday. The front door won't lock. It was lighting up before. Now it's not even lighting up. And sometimes I'm like, okay, the key to the owner's closet is here. Yeah, the code is 0008. And there are, double A's up there. But then you're also, then suddenly they say, oh, well, shoot, here's 36 rolls of toilet paper, and here's, there's suddenly
my storage closet's been cleared out.
All your dish soap, all your laundry soap, But but that's what I have grown tired of, because I was managing 3 or 4 short-term rentals.
That's a lot.
And they do make money. I mean, it's like, each one I run for other people, it makes me like $20,000 a year, and you don't think, like, I mean, I know we get spoiled. We don't think $20,000 a year is a lot, but it really is when you're running 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
And it's just like your daily business. But what I was finding, every weekend, I was going to one of them.
Saturday night,
do something.
Friday night.
I have no desire for that.
Yeah.
Oh, we broke a glass in the whatever. Okay, sweep it up. It's okay. It's all right, And there's, I don't know how everybody does theirs, but like mine, if they break a glass or they break something there, and it's, unless it's something that I really need to replace, I don't charge them anything.
You want them to have a good experience. It was an accident. Get good reviews.
Yeah, they just drop $5,000 on, and you're like, oh,
I'm not going to charge you $20. So,
do you have people that want to concentrate on property management within your team?
We opened a property management division. It's a separate brokerage, but last year, but we're doing all long term still.
Yeah.
Chelsea's got about 55 in inventory, all long term. We've talked about doing short term at some point, but we wanted to just build the long term portfolio, and because that's a whole nother animal in itself.
It is.
Before doing that.
It is.
But it's going well so far. I mean, property management's a tough business.
It is
So
a tough business.
you get a good person to do it. It's the hard,
So
Everybody thinks it's so easy. Like,
Yeah.
why don't we do it? I'm like, trust me.
Yeah.
So my sister's in real estate up in Raleigh, North Carolina, and she's kind of like the little queen of downtown. Like, killed it. Like out of high school and college, straight to work for a property developer. Lived, breathed everything inside the Beltline there for 20 years, right? And so now she runs a great little business, but prior to COVID, she started doing the property management as well. And she started it because she had bought and sold, she ran 15, 20 of her own rentals basically through the company, set it all up, and then started to grow that business. And right around COVID, they were running 320 total properties.
Wow.
And I said to her, I was like, wow, that's such a headache. She's like, Gibbs, when they turned off the water prior to COVID and we were selling nothing for a short amount of time, that made every one of my bills. It took care of everything. Yep. And the commissions above and beyond are just gravy. Mm-hmm. And, and you think about that diversity right there, right?
Yeah. Within the business, whatever the market's doing, if you're got the property management side, and I've heard, my family's told me that before, that during bad years, like, it kept them profitable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Keeps the doors open, right?
Yeah.
And then, sometimes when I think about doing rentals, like, people call me and I'll say, well, sometimes I'm just like, well, I just don't do rentals. I'll tell you what to do. You go straight to the MLS, and they'll tell you who the listing agent is at the bottom, and you contact them directly. Because if I get involved, it's an extra layer, and that other agent's not making as much money, so call them direct on the rentals. And people don't understand that, but not only does it cost me money to do the rental, like, my fees above and beyond is just not worth it. But also, sometimes you put somebody in a rental and then they have a problem with the landlord.
Oh, yeah.
And then you're in the middle of that and they're mad at you and you're like, look, I did this as a favor to you because
I can't help
and
you
people
with
don't
the
understand that. They're like, well, you were paid for it. Well, I mean, I get it. I was paid for it, but my fees outweighed the cost of that. And I did that so that when you're ready to move out of that rental and buy a house, I didn't do that so that you hate me now and you'll never use me. So
because of
because the air conditioner.
Because it didn't have salt shakers in the property. I mean, really.
Some slumlord is now causing you to think I'm a terrible person.
And it does. It is an interesting business because everybody, they get upset. Nobody's ever going to take any blame themselves. Sorry. They just don't do it. So it's going to fall on you. You're the scapegoat for sure on that. And, we bend over backwards not to be the scapegoat, and yet we still are.
Yeah. First call.
We still are.
First call.